whistling that tune today. So right off the bat, even though you get these long singing lines, you notice that it's not a melody like you hear when you hear Mendelssohn, or when you hear Tchaikovsky, or when you hear Brahms, not even when you hear Prokofiev. It's really, really unusual. Some of the passage work for the violin is very, very strange and very crazily virtuosic, like this. But what does that sound like, and how on earth do you learn something like this and play it by memory, right? It's certainly not in any kind of a key. So now we're dealing with a musical language that is clearly atonal and freely atonal, almost seemingly at random. And then you get these other moments in the piece that are very, very odd, that seem to be very melodic and almost theatrical. So first of all, the orchestration and the kind of writing that takes place for the violin is as wildly passionate and virtuosic as anything you'll find in the 19th or by more standard composers of the 20th century, but the language is completely different. The orchestration is different. Then the form of the concerto is different. It opens with an andante movement with very fast notes. That stuff I just played for you looks like this on the page. It's blinding, actually. There's so many notes. Gives you an idea. You know, it's just thousands of notes in just a couple of pages. And it's a long concerto. It's a half hour long, so there's a lot to do, you know. So you've got this new way of writing for the instrument, and you've got this new kind of musical language as well. So it's very unusual, and it's not performed that often. It is performed. It is recorded. Famous violinists have recorded it. Famous orchestras play it. It is not unusual to hear it in the context of something like this, the Dallas Modern Music Festival. That's where you would hear that. Although the last performance I heard of it was actually with the Chicago Symphony. So, you know, it is performed by standard orchestras. So as I said, there are other parts to it that are very theatrical. Well, you know something's up because, you know, normally a concerto is 3 movements, occasionally 4. This has got 3 movements, but the middle movement is divided into 3 distinct individual sections. A nocturne, a cadenza, which is accompanied, also unusual, and a serenade. And the nocturne has a lot of xylophone and violin. So, I mean, I think, to my knowledge, it's the first time anybody ever wrote for the xylophone as a duet with the violin. And we start with this boink in the double bass, and then ding, ding, with these strident notes hammered out of the xylophone, so you get this very strange thing to announce the nocturne. When you think of nocturne, what do you think of? You think of Chopin, right? But this starts. That's the first thing you hear in the nocturne, and then the violin answers with a silly little dance tune. Things leap around a lot, like that opening melody I played for you. Or this melody from the second movement. So he's going around with these strange intervals and these strange registers on the instrument. This is entirely characteristic of music in Germany of this period. It's called Expressionism. Now, how many people have heard of Impressionism, French Impressionism, right? Who are some composers we associate with that? Who's the most famous Impressionist? Debussy, yeah. Impressionist as an art form, absolutely, was coined with Monet in the visual arts first, and then Debussy in music. Expressionism follows on the heels of Impressionism in Germany. It is initially a distinctly German style. And Impressionism sought to, in visual arts, capture the play of light on objects in nature and was expressed in paint with dabs of color. Expressionist painters were interested in the working of the psyche. Now, how many people have ever used the word psychology, okay? Or psych, or conscious, or consciousness, or unconscious, right? It's common language for us. We all understand what it is, we talk about it. We talk about what our dreams do, what we thought of unconsciously. This is all new in the 1920s. Freud's writings and developments only became accepted in Germany towards the end of the 19th century. So even in the 1920s, the field of psychology, psychoanalysis, psychiatry is a new field, and it had a profound impact on the arts. One of the impacts was this new movement called Expressionism, which instead of trying to express things that you saw in beauty in the natural world, was interested in how the human subconscious interprets things. And so it becomes a little bit darker, a little bit more bizarre, a little bit less familiar. And that's how it's reflected in that music. And the composers of this period, Schoenberg, Baird, Weber, Kurt Weill, these guys are all interested in this expressionist style of writing. So the last movement, I played a little bit of the beginning of the second movement. The last movement has got this, I should probably show you some of the cadenza, because, you know, it's a cadenza. You expect it to be flashy for the violin, and it is. But it's very strange again. So you start with this long introduction in the winds with a solo trumpet line, and then the violin interrupts them with... the trumpet comes back in, it's a dialogue, it's a duo. Again, first time I know of a duet for violin and trumpet in a concerto. And it goes on for some time, and you finally start getting some real virtuoso writing with some crazy arpeggios, but let me slow these arpeggios down so you actually hear what the notes are, because they are really strange. It's a group of 9 notes. Every 3 notes outlines harmony. The first arpeggio is just, all three of them are descending. The first one is made up of E minor, E flat minor, and F minor. And ends on a B. The next one consists of D flat major, E minor, F sharp minor, and then we have this long stack of thirds that ends on the bottom. But these don't go by at that tempo. If they did, you could actually almost hear them melodically. You could hear these go by at this tempo. And that's the end of the first section of the cadenza, and then the orchestra interrupts at that point. So